I'm gonna be a hater today because I hate the Marvel sets. All of them. They're just so bad. I mean, all of them. There's two of them right now, but I promise you that the next ones aren't gonna suddenly start appealing to me. And that's honestly just because I am so incredibly fatigued by Marvel. I burned out of it a long time ago, and the fact that we're now doing it in Magic the Gathering, that certainly isn't helping. That is definitely just kind of making me even less open to the idea of exploring the Marvel universe. Especially since the Marvel sets don't really do any exploring. As always with the shitty universes beyond, they are just hinting at stuff. They're just telling you stuff that has happened, but they are not showing you what is happening. There's no narrative, there's no through line, there's just a million characters and the assumption that you already know what's going on, which I don't. And frankly speaking, I'm already not inclined to look it up because I already don't like Marvel. And then Wizards makes absolutely no effort to get me to engage with the material. I don't understand why there's no promotional comic or something like that releasing alongside the Marvel set, which, keep in mind, comics are a storytelling medium. You could use that to tell a story. Or why aren't the Marvel sets about a specific comic storyline that already exists? And then maybe that could be made available for free online so people can actually go and read it and get an understanding of these characters and these events so that we actually know what's going on. And it's not just Mark Rosewater pointing at a Spider-Man and being like, look at this guy, he's from India. And I'm like, that's cool that he's from India. I am all about inclusivity, but can you tell me something about this character, please? Please, literally anything. Now, I am a Marvel hater, and I am late to the party, and that's very much intentionally. I wanted to let the set kind of breathe a little bit. Let me absorb it a little bit. See if maybe I start feeling better about it as time progresses. You know, maybe I soften on it. But honestly, the exact opposite has happened. The more Marvel cards I see in Magic the Gathering, the less I like them. And so what I need now is I need catharsis. I need to just get this out of my system and complain about it just properly one time. So that's what we're doing right now. I am complaining about the Marvel sets because I think they are bad. They're uninteresting. They are not something that would get me to play Magic the Gathering. And that sucks because I really, really like Magic the Gathering. Now I understand that I am not the end-all be-all opinion here. There are definitely people out there, a large number of people that are engaging with Marvel superheroes. We just got the earnings call from Hasbro, and turns out that Marvel Superheroes is one of the best selling Magic the Gathering sets ever. It seems to only be trailing Final Fantasy, so from what we can tell, it seems to be the second best selling set of all time. That's crazy, and honestly, it gets me a little depressed because there's still some tiny hope in the back of my head that there aren't going to be more Marvel sets, but look, we all know that's cooked. That's over. There are going to be more Marvel sets. That will happen. That is unavoidable at this point. And I just hope that the people that enjoy it do really enjoy it. Here's the thing. Magic the Gathering for me is not just cards with text. There are people out there that are talking about quitting Magic or leaving Magic behind, saying that this isn't for them anymore. And that I will not do. That will require way worse things to happen than a couple of sets I find uninteresting. Because to me, Magic the Gathering is a community. It is a social vehicle. It is about going out into real life and scratching that itch of my brain that gets happy when I talk to people in person. Which is a very important itch to scratch, by the way. Go outside and touch some grass. And you know, as I get older, it gets a little bit weird to just like hang out with people without something to do. Like these days, if I were to call up my friends and be like, you want to hang out? The immediate question would be, what are we going to do? And if I don't have an answer to that question, we're probably not going to hang out. And I'm the same, right? Like if I don't have something to do, it's difficult to convince me to come hang out. But that's the nice thing about Magic. It's something easy to do. We can just play some Magic, even if we don't know what else we're gonna be doing. Well, we can also play some board games, I guess. But Magic is even there. It's easier, right? It's so easy to just play some Magic. We don't have to think. We can just hang out. We can have some snacks. We can talk. And all of that just kind of comes for free. It's so easy. And that's the huge selling point to Magic the Gathering for me. And that is something that is independent of what's printed on the actual cards. So in that sense, I will just have to put up with Marvel. I will have to deal with Marvel. And Marvel will continue until my morale improves. That's right. The title of this video isn't about you, it's about me. Marvel will continue until I accept it and I'm happy with it. Will that ever happen? I don't know. But I do know that it's not gonna drive me away from Magic. So at the end of the day, just gotta accept it, because what's the point in being miserable, right? There's no fun in that either. So anyways, I have now successfully, officially complained about Marvel. This is just gonna be it. I'm just not gonna do that again for at least another week or something like that. I don't know. I will, however, continue to refuse to put it into jeopardy. That will not happen. But you know something else that kind of annoyed me over the last couple of weeks? I tried to get a festival in a box. I wanted to get a festival in a box mostly because of the new 6. There's a new 6 artwork they printed. In case you don't know, 6 is my favorite commander, one of my favorite characters in Magic. I love 6. But 6 has had a problem so far, where the 6 we see on the cards just can't actually really exist because there's like a lore incongruity there. However, in the Festival in the Box Secret Lair, they printed a 6 that has flavor text that fixes the lore issue. Oh my god, that is so great. That just makes me so happy. And I couldn't get one. In fact, neither me nor like 3 or 4 of my friends could get one. We were all in line, we were all there on time in the Secret Lair queue, even ahead of time, of course, right? And still, none of us got one. We didn't even get close, right? I had an hour wait time remaining, but after 20 minutes, it sold out. So it's just like super, super far away. We didn't even get close. A friend of mine went to the MagicCon Amsterdam and tried to get one there, tried to get one in person. He couldn't even do that. You know, people are talking about scalpers as if that's the issue, and honestly, I don't believe that. The real problem are Wizards of the Coast not making enough product. Why are there so few of these festivals in a box? That doesn't check out to me. It doesn't even make sense, because of course they want their product to sell out, right? But if I'm Wizards of the Coast, I don't want it to sell out in 20 minutes. That's not beneficial. Because by selling out in 20 minutes, you have people like me who were still in line, willing to buy one. I would have spent the money, but then couldn't because he ran out. Wouldn't it have been better for them if it had sold out an hour into the sale, or even like 24 hours into the sale? It makes sense to me that they want to sell out their Festival in the Box, their Secret Lairs, all of that. Of course they want to sell it out, because that's how they make the most profit. But I don't see how it's beneficial to them that it's selling out so goddamn quickly, because that's just money being left on the table. And I really think the problem here is just Wizards of the Coast. They just need to print more of their shit. Now, inherently, I actually don't think that's the biggest problem if it comes to the Festival in the Box. That was just frustrating. Or the Goblin Secret Lair. That was also just frustrating, but ultimately that is kind of fine. But you know what has me worried? At the MagicCon Amsterdam, they announced that there's going to be Mystery Booster Commander. And unlike Mystery Booster 2, Mystery Booster Commander has unique new cards. That is going to be a problem if the availability is the same as it currently is. Now, admittedly, that doesn't have to be the case. In case you're not familiar, Mystery Booster 2 is kind of a weird product. It's not really part of the main line printing system that Wizards uses. It's not really part of the main production line either. Instead, it's something that was made by the con people, right? The people that run the events. And so in that sense, Mystery Booster 2 was kind of a product that became a lot more popular than they expected, because they originally were planning for it to only be available at events in person. So I kind of understand that maybe they just kind of didn't produce enough of it and so they can't sell enough of it. And hopefully for Mystery Booster Commander, they're going to produce a lot more so they can actually get the cards out. But they really have to, because look, so far the new cards they have shown us from Mystery Booster Commander, which are the little red meme commander and the otter that can break the rules, those cards are not cards that worry me. I mean, the otter is cute, don't get me wrong. The rule breaker mechanic is a very fun one, but ultimately this isn't a good card, right? This is something for otter enthusiasts. And more power to you. But do we really trust Wizards to not accidentally include a broken commander in there? Or even just a broken commander card? I mean, I think the odds are very high of that happening. And that card, if the availability of Mystery Booster Commander is as low as it is for Mystery Booster 2, well, that card will be like hundreds of bucks. I mean, that's gonna be insanely expensive. And I don't like seeing that. I don't think Magic cards should be as expensive as they currently are. So we certainly shouldn't be printing new cards that are gonna be vastly more expensive than that. One last Secret Lair complaint. There's currently the new Secret Lair charity event going on, the Secret Lair for the Women's Fund. And I think that's great. I wanted to get one. But the website crashes when I try to buy one. It goes to a 4 or 3 error every time. Come on, Wizards. How difficult is it for me to buy your products? I just don't get it. I want to give you money. Maybe that's on me. Maybe I should not give them money. Maybe that's my mistake. I'm just saying that I really feel like it shouldn't be so difficult to purchase things from a company. If you enjoyed the video so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and check out my Patreon, link down in the description. On my Patreon, you can get all kinds of things, like for example, you get additional deck tags, or you get the Jeopardy games, or you can have your deck reviewed. Lots of stuff on the Patreon, lots of bonus content, link down below. MagicCon Amsterdam also introduced us to the new sets for 2027, at least the Universes Within sets, which are the ones that I primarily care about. I am actually not fundamentally a Universes Beyond hater. I just hate specific Universes Beyond. And right now, I am a little bit soured on that. Like, my faith in Wizards to choose cool, interesting Universes Beyond, this is kind of on the low point. So I am excited for the Universes Within stuff. We've got Noctis, the Sunken Realm. This is going to be an underwater world, which looks cool. One thing I found really funny about it is that they kind of kept talking about how it was going to be difficult to make non-blue cards because, you know, we are underwater and blue is the color of water. And I was listening to that and I was just like, what are you talking about? First of all, the oceans are so colorful. Secondly, since when is blue the color of water? I get that blue is associated with water, but swamps have water. You know, like I'm just saying that just because blue is associated with water doesn't mean that it is the color of water. Those are actually two different things. So in that way, I find it kind of funny that this was a point they brought up repeatedly and that this was something they were worried about. I'm also really curious to see what they cook up for the new flying. In case you don't know, but Noctis is entirely underwater, so it doesn't really make sense for there to be flying creatures. But flying is a core essential mechanic of Magic the Gathering, so you can't really have a set without flying. It is somewhat required. And so they said that there's going to be something to replace flying for this set. And I'm very curious to see what it is. Maybe it's just sea horsemanship. Chances of that seem kind of low, but it would be very, very funny. My guess would be it's something related to like diving. So maybe you can choose like an elevation. You can dive below or dive above and kind of try and swim past people in that way. A friend of mine suggested that it could be blocking ward, where basically you have to pay the block ward cost to be able to block that creature. So for example, if a creature with block ward 1 attacks, to block it, you need to pay a mana. I think that would be interesting, although the odds of it are kind of low because block ward 3 is basically unblockable, right? It's kind of tricky with ward as a whole because how do you make it so that the costs are actually something you can pay? The best way to handle ward and block ward, if that is actually what's coming, will probably be something along the lines of mixed costs where you have block ward 1 plus 1 life or something like that. But at that point, it kind of starts getting complicated. But it is interesting. So I'm very curious to see how that ends up working out. Next up, we've got Kamigawa Titan Breach. This is of course very exciting, merging Kamigawa and Ikoria into one setting, into one event that is happening. Gonna be kaiju battles. This one has me a little less excited. I think it's probably gonna be a very fun set. I think it's gonna be aesthetically very pleasing, but it also seems like this is gonna sound kind of rough, but it seems a little bit like a hat set to me, but it's just very tropey, very kind of like, we're taking these retreaded story beats and just telling them over and over again type thing. Something that they've done with Magic in the past, and seems to be something that particularly Mark Rosewater is very fond of. Personally, I'm not a big fan of focusing on references in my media, but hey, we'll see what ends up coming out of it. I do think that this is going to be fun. Right? I do think this is going to be a set that's going to be very exciting and might even leave the largest footprint of the year, but it is also a set where I feel like it's going to be mostly superficially fun. That is fine though. I actually don't mind that, especially with what's coming afterwards, which is Jalfir. Jalfir is an African-inspired plane. Afro-fantasy is what they've called it, and it truly looks outstanding. It is of course a plane that we have heard of many times in Magic story. It is where Teferi has been hanging out. Fun fact, I believe that's also where Ren is buried, so maybe we're getting Ren back. Ooh, maybe we're getting another tree fork. That would be exciting. But anyways, so Jalfir looks absolutely fantastic. This is the set I am by far the most excited for. I love the aesthetic of it. I love that we're exploring fantasy grounded in a culture that I am not super familiar with. That is something that always gets me very excited. And I am looking forward to learning about that culture, hopefully a little bit through Magic the Gathering, but also outside of it. I will be doing research into this because this is just the kind of stuff that gets me really excited and really looking forward to just kind of seeing what they explore and what they showcase and whatnot. I also found it fantastic how much emphasis they placed on having lots of cultural advices for this set. So hopefully it's going to be very much appropriate. Let's just put it that way, right? Like with this kind of stuff, there can be issues if you don't tread it carefully, but it seems that they've done that. So I'm very excited for this set. This looks outstanding. Alright then, and one last thing for today, we've got some Hobbit spoilers. Now, The Hobbit is a set that I am actually excited for. I know there's a lot of negativity surrounding it, but here's the thing. I completely skipped Marvel, I completely skipped Turtles, I genuinely didn't buy a single card from either set, so I am actually kind of down for something, you know, like Universes Beyond-ish. This is, again, where maybe you might call me a little hypocritical with how hateful I am towards Marvel, but I just fucking hate Marvel. Like, this fucking sue me. Like, it's just where I'm at. But The Hobbit is actually one of my favorite stories of all time. It's something I grew up with. I remember I got the Hobbit Game Boy Advance game from my dad when I was younger, which I played that game like crazy. I read the books so often, so I'm very excited for The Hobbit. And you know, something that also really helps me there, I always repeat that my big problem with, you know, something like Marvel or Turtles as well, is that Wizards doesn't make any effort to tell the story of those sets. Well, The Hobbit is just a story. The story is gonna be told. That's all there is to it, so they can't really fuck that up. So anyways, cards. Bilbo's Gambit is a big one that's being talked about a lot. This is a 2-mana white instant that lets us gift the treasure and then return target spell to its owner's hand. If the gift was promised, players can't cast spells this turn. I think this card is super mid. People talk about this as if it's the new hotness. I have seen trusted content creators call this out as a CEDH card, and I'm just, are you crazy? This card is trash. Okay, trash is a heavy word, but here's the thing, right? If the gift was promised, players can't cast spells this turn. It's not just our opponents, it is any players, including us. Silences are a very powerful effect in Commander, but that's because they stop our opponents from doing stuff. They don't stop us from doing stuff. The moment we stop ourselves from doing stuff, this becomes just so much worse. Bilbo's Gambit isn't even really that useful as interaction, because let's say your opponent's casting like Swords to Plowshares, so you bounce it and then they just cast it again, right? Of course, if you hit something big, then yeah, this can be useful, but if you're hitting something big, then they presumably can't cast their next spell anyways. In that sense, this doesn't really do anything, right? The Gift the Treasure doesn't really do anything. However, if you're hitting something small, you bounce it back to their hand, they can just play it again. Unless, of course, you gift the treasure, in which case they can't cast anything anymore, and that could interrupt an opponent's turn, very much so. But, you know, like a counterspell would probably do a similar thing. Not to mention that it doesn't really work on your turn. And that's a big factor there, right? When you're playing interaction in Commander, it is very crucially important that your interaction works on your turn, because if it doesn't, you are playing cards that only help you not to lose. Commander is a game where it is much more important that you're trying to win than it is that you're trying to stay alive. That's why in CEDH you've got these turbo decks that basically say, look, you have to stop me. I don't really give a shit what's going on with y'all. And those decks are very good. Because, well, they are decks that try to win. Winning is just better than not losing. And in that sense, Bilbo's Gambit does very little. If you use Bilbo's Gambit to bounce a spell, a cheap spell, and then they just cast it again, well, you're cooked, right? It doesn't actually do anything. And if you use it to make it so that your opponents can't cast any more spells this turn, that could help you resolve your one thing or protect your one thing. But in that moment, you have also ended your own turn. You can't cast any more spells yourself. It is just worse than Reprieve. It is just worse than Silence. White has better interaction already. That's not to say I don't ever see a place for Bilbo's Gambit. Ultimately, Reprieve is solid, particularly if you are in a Rule of Law deck. Bilbo's Gambit can actually be nice, because turns out in Rule of Law decks, it is quite effective to just kind of bounce an opponent's spell when it's the only spell they can play that turn. But in those decks as well, the second part doesn't really matter, right? Like, it doesn't actually help. It is a bit of a weird one. I do think this card is fine. Is it the hype? Is it amazing? No. This card is quite mid. If you are in a deck that has access to blue, you would never ever want to play this. If you're in a deck that has access to white, there are 3 silencers that we want to play before this one. And Reprieve is better, even Interrupter is better. Fuck, I might even play Mana Dive over Bilbo's Gambit, because in many cases, that's pretty much all we're doing anyways. Bilbo, Fellow Conspirator, is a 3 mana green 2/3. If you would create a food token, instead create a food token and a treasure token. All the food decks are getting just increasingly more disgusting. I don't know what they're thinking here. This is a filthy card. This is an insane card. This card is absolutely brutal. And yeah, no, broken. It's just busted. Honestly, just insane. If you're in a food deck, you want to play Bilbo, Fellow Conspirator, this card is going to be like $50 because it's only in the scene box. This card is crazy. This is an insane card. Insane. The Queen of Dale is a 2 mana white 2/1. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, you recruit. And recruit means you draw a card and discard a card, and if you discarded a non-9 card, you create a 1/1 white human soldier creature token. This might be the best card of the set so far. The Queen of Dale is absolutely incredible. First of all, looting is something that I already value very highly, right? You guys know that I think looting is one of the strongest things you can do in Magic. It is so unbelievably powerful to be able to filter your hand and just make sure that your hand is good. The Queen of Dale does that while also creating 1/1s, which is important for multiple reasons, because we're in white, right? There are the weenie synergies, of course, where we can use our Tokasia's Welcome or Welcoming Vampire to draw cards of the Queen of Dale. These cards trigger once each turn, but that of course means on every player's turn. There's of course also Caretaker's Talent, which is very similar. Token synergies also work. And Honestly, what I'm about to say might be going a little bit far, but I feel like this might be CDH playable, the Queen of Dale, specifically in Tymna decks. I would try it out in a Tymna deck, because with Tymna you kind of want some creatures on the board, so you can like smack people, and then you smack people, and then you draw cards. It might also be playable in Gaia's Cradle decks, because of course that's a lot of tokens. And you know, in CDH decks, you don't play that many lands anyways, you're gonna be discarding stuff anyhow. This is a card that I think is truly, truly crazy. One of the cards I'm most excited for, just for picking up myself, because I would like to put it into Toulouse. Oh man, it's perfect for Toulouse. It's just free looting with nothing else that we need to do. Outstanding card. This is the card that I think is probably gonna leave the largest footprint out of all the cards that I've seen so far. This is the card that gets me the most excited. It's also only 2 mana. Like it's just 2 mana. It's crazy. It is a crazy card. Oh, talking about looting, there's of course Bilbo Luckbearer. This card is going to be a staple for me specifically. I don't even care if anybody else plays this, but I'm picking up like 10 of them because this is another 1/1 for 2 mana that can't be blocked and loots on combat damage. What else do I need? Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're trying something a little bit different again. You guys know I keep experimenting, but that's because we need to find our format. We need to find what we do here. I'm very happy with the Jeopardies. I think those are great. I like the deck interviews. I think those are great too. But that kind of means that we are more of an unscripted channel now. So I thought, hey, let's do something unscripted. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Let me know if this was something that you would watch again. And check out my Patreon. I'll see you guys. Goodbye.